On a gray Sunday afternoon, Chef John Bishop has arrived early at his elegant 4th Avenue restaurant to meet with artist Morag McLean and to be scrutinized for a special project.
That's right. Yes.
It will get you to just drop your head so I get the shape of your top of the head, and maybe just lift your chin a bit so I can see the profile up over your cheekbones here and your eyebrows. That would help as well.
Using the measurements and photos taken today, McLean will soon begin work on the latest in a series of portraits that began when she was still in England creating special effects for the BBC.
It's just a little project I set up for myself before I left Britain, before I knew I was coming to Canada. There was a time in the film industry where for a couple of months there's a slow period, and so for that time I had to do something. And the most obvious thing for me was go back and do portraits. And so I thought, well, who can I do? You know, I can do Joe Bloggs from down the road. But wouldn't it be much more interesting to do someone who's well respected? Well, everyone who's well respected has been done, except chefs. This is a silicone rubber mould of a chef, David Wilson, in Scotland. What I use is bronze powder, and I lay it into the gel coat of the resin. It's not real bronze metal because that's very expensive. And then afterwards I treat it with acids and burnish it up, and the bronze comes back to the surface. I've just gone over him quickly, but little bits still need to be done, and it's a patination, bringing patination back to bringing life back to the sculpture. I had an old tutor in college used to say, the sculpture is the life and the cast is the death, but the patination is the resurrection. And he was absolutely right.
Fresh out of art school, McLean worked briefly in Madame Tussauds before landing a coveted position with the BBC, where she would stay for nearly 2 decades.
I was called a visual effects designer, and it took in a lot of sculpture. I mean, the obvious things are the lopped off limbs and chopped off heads and all the Shakespeare stuff that I got involved in, the Henrys and Merchant of Venice. It also took in fire and flame and blowing things up and burning things down. The whole thing right across the board of all the kinds of special effects. So this is for The Green Man. This was a film the BBC made with Albert Finney. And there were quite a few things I had to do. The gravestones all had to be broken in exactly the same place every take. The girdle piece, which had to make a man look like a tree trunk, it was part of a dream sequence. And this little silver figure here, and the silver box it went into, was part of a grave robbing, well, not robbing, but he was stealing the stuff from a grave.
What is it?
I don't know.
What an ugly little creature.
Well, I used some Celtic designs because it's not medieval. What is it? 17th century. Sometime around 17th century it all took place, the actual ghost part of it. So I brought in a Celtic flavour, and the Green Man being a rural pagan figure as well, I used a bit of that and the branching twine, you know, twines of branches round each other and things. So I used all that in the design of it.
Looks rather pagan then.
I worked on quite a lot of French and Saunders. They're just so much fun. And the most fun of all was making these, the muscle suits.
I think the girls are ready for us now. Eva?
As you can see, Beth has a very athletic body. Her well-oiled pectorals are her best feature. Oh, we've done a lot of work on those.
I started off with a very quick carving of Don French, for example. Someone else had to do Jennifer Saunders. And we carved them into the shape they were going to be in, and then dressed that in the leotard that was specifically made for each of them. And onto the leotard, I glued just foam rubber muscles and built up the layers of muscles, glued on, and then the whole thing sprayed with latex and put veins in and things like that.
Not only was there drama and comedy to work on, this was also a time when the BBC was producing some of its classic science fiction shows, such as Blake's 7 and Doctor Who.
Nobody who worked at the BBC managed to avoid Doctor Who.
Really?
Fun. It was a lot of fun.
So you know how the TARDIS works.
I know how the TARDIS works, sure I do.
Oh.
If you don't believe in it, it's not any fun. You have this crazy, eccentric thing going on inside you, and that's what makes the fun.
To be able to make a living doing that is such a wonderful thing.
Well, you don't as much go out to work. You go out to play.
Yeah.
Here I am in Canada now, and I've been here a year and a half. I haven't done too much work since getting here, but then people don't know me yet. But I'm gradually getting a toe in there and making a little foothold, and it'll grow, and more work will come. And with all this experience from sculpting and from the film and TV industry, who knows where it's going to take me.
With a talent and experience like Morag McLean's, it's sure to take her very far indeed. This is Adam Abrams reporting for Vancouver Now.